Yes. Yes, indeed.
Okay. So she said she's about 60 seconds. Give it one minute. Good, how are you? We're gonna get started.
That's what we need to do. She coming?
Yeah, like I said, she'll be here.
By Scott.
He's out. Him and Miss Taylor's out. So we're waiting on the phone. Right about that.
Thanks to somebody.
This-
Awesome.
Let's see if you want. It's live, okay. I'm just gonna, I just want to make an announcement. I don't know whether everybody who's seen this in here or not, but, I want to thank, Chief Mull for, his leadership. It just went out that we are the 6th safest city in Georgia.
Yeah.
Which is pretty dang good. And we appreciate what your guys do. We know it's because of your leadership. All right, call to order Rankin City Council meeting 4/28/25. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Scott. Councilmember Milner.
Present.
Councilmember Underwood.
Present.
Mayor Exley.
Here.
Councilmember Blackwell.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember Riley.
Here.
All right, invocation will be given by Pastor Rick Johnson. Please remain standing for our pledge.
We're reminded that our troubles can sometimes lead to perseverance or patience, and patience helps build character. I was, as we, with Easter being us being on the other side of Easter, reminded as we go into the summer that sometimes patience is most demanded of us and most expected, that we can get into a hurry or we can do things right. Let us pray. Good and gracious God, help us to take the time that things are going to take so that they are done right, so that we do not have to do them again. Help us to take the time that some things take so that they are done safely and that everybody goes home and no one gets hurt. We pray that you give us the patience to attend to these matters and all things that you put within our sight and within your blessing. We ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation.
So we have a motion in order to approval of the agenda with the following: the removal of the approval of the minutes for the April 14th meeting, the removal of new business item number 2, and the addition of new business item 5A. Motion as written. When we get to 5A, then I'll read it. There's a motion in order to.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Blackwell, a second by Ms. Underwood. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Guys, public comments, shall pertain to agenda items only. You wish to get on the agenda, you'll need to do that at City Hall. And right now, we're gonna move number 5 up. It's a proclamation, to request approval, a proclamation declaring April 25th, 2025 as Mayor's Reading Club Day. If you all didn't know, we started out, we went to, Lincoln Elementary, on Friday, and, it was wonderful. And I think I told everybody, I don't know that I had tougher questions asking me at the debate than what some of those guys asked, 3rd grade. So it was a really good time, and we look forward to partnering up. We've been asked by a couple more schools. I know that the city is behind this program 100%. So we'll be doing more reading there, and Mr. Blackwell is here to read the proclamation tonight, and then I'll present it to you guys.
Mayor's Reading Club proclamation. Whereas literacy is not just an education issue, it's an economic, workforce, and quality of life issue. And whereas research shows that children who can't read proficiency by the end of the 3rd grade are more likely to experience poor health, have discipline problems, and drop out of high school. And whereas each year in the United States, low literacy levels are linked to the hundreds of billions of dollars in non-productivity, healthcare, and judicial costs. And whereas 68% of Georgia 4th graders do not read proficiently. And whereas collaborative efforts and strategic partnerships must be undertaken to address literacy issues. And whereas the Mayor's Reading Club program is offered through Georgia Forward, a Georgia Municipal Association managed nonprofit. And whereas the goal of the program is to improve literacy skills and overall success with early reading among children and youth in Georgia cities through encouragement, support, and leadership from city mayors. And whereas Georgia Forward has commissioned a children's book series to use as part of the program to teach young readers about local government, and a copy of the first 3 books in the series titled Georgia Caroline Visits City Hall, Georgia Caroline Visits Our Hometown Heroes, and Georgia Caroline Visits the Water Treatment Plant is provided in the program Starter Kit. And whereas the Mayor's Reading Club is flexible, it can be delivered in person or virtually, and promotes partnerships and collaboration between the city, county, schools, public libraries, local nonprofits, and business community. Now, therefore, I, Kevin Exley, Mayor of the City of Lincoln, do hereby join the Mayor's Reading Club program and proclaim April 25th, 25 as Mayor's Reading Club Day.
Yes. Here's the proclamation, the official proclamation for you guys. If you'll please come up, we'll get over here and do a picture. Absolutely.
Ladies.
Sorry, I don't know. Oh, I thought I didn't tell you.
Come up here, boy. This was a program for kids without kids. We need a kid in this.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. I saw this.
So much, you're correct.
No, I'm saying we have to vote on the proclamation. I think it's in me, but I don't think we have to vote on the proclamation.
We're gonna say we did not have a regular series. Okay.
All right, so right now I'm gonna, turn the, meeting over to our public hearing officer.
Thanks. This will open up the public hearing portion of the agenda. I'm gonna briefly read the rules for public hearing. Bear with me. The public hearing shall be called to order by the presiding officer if the subject of the hearing is initiated by an applicant other than the city council. The petitioner requesting such zoning decision or the applicant's agent shall be recognized first and shall be permitted to present and explain the request of the zoning decision. Thereafter, all individuals who so desire shall be permitted to speak in favor or in opposition of the proposed zoning decision. If the request is initiated by city council, all members of the city council shall be allowed to speak as they are recognized by the mayor or presiding officer, regardless of whether such city council member speaks in favor or in opposition of the proposed zoning decision. Thereafter, all individuals who so desire shall be permitted to speak in favor or in opposition of the proposed zoning decision. But bear with me a little bit more. When any person who wishes to speak at a public hearing, he shall raise his hand, and after being recognized by the presiding officer, shall stand, give your name, address, and make any comment appropriate to the proposed zoning decision. A time limit may be imposed upon any person speaking at the public hearing, but all speakers are urged to make their comments brief and avoid repeating other comments. The applicant shall have the opportunity after all comments and opposition have been made to make summary remarks concerning their proposed zoning decision. And thereafter, the presiding officer shall announce that the public hearing for the requested zoning decision is closed, and the city council and the planning and zoning board, as the case may be, shall immediately and openly discuss the proposed zoning decision and vote on action which they are authorized to take. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing on agenda item number 1, public hearing on a petition filed by Tyler Pratt with Superior Fence and Rail requesting a variance for the setback requirements in the Rincon Unified Development Ordinance, specifically table 90-27.1 and section 90-32. Located at 0 Town Park Loop. The property is owned by Raising Stars Learning Center and is zoned B2 general commercial. Are there any public comments on agenda item number 1? Please step forward and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Tyler Pratt. I'm the owner of Superior Fence and Rail. Just to briefly summarize what we're asking is to, as you can see in the diagram on your screen, is to fence both parcels, lot 16A or 16A, which I currently own. That building is where I operate Pratt Fence Company out of. We've been blessed with a receptive market, so looking to expand. But looking to fence in 16A and 16B as one, because the way that the loans are structured have 2 separate sets of collateral, obviously for both properties. So just looking to continue our fence on the back line and then stay 37 feet from the front property line with our front fence.
The only question I have for you is, the fence that's currently there separating the 2 parcels, will that be removed?
Yes, sir.
And so if it's approved, and then it will, your current fence will continue back around the second part?
Yes, sir. Same style, same height, same identical.
No gates will be installed in that second part?
There will be at least 1 gate on the front section. So on this section here, right here, at least 1 gate
Okay.
will be installed. Yes, sir.
So a driveway cut be installed too?
In the future, yes.
In the future?
In the future. Yes, sir.
Mary, I got a question for Terry on this. What was conditions? Because I remember that we were kind of concerned with even allowing that to start with, because we didn't want that to come out as an industrial
area, and I know when I drive around there, there's a semi truck parked there all the time. And that's giving the idea to those people around that, well, this is industrial, I'm parking a truck there. And we've got a nice daycare there, we've got a doctor's office, two-story building across the street. And I'm just really concerned with what the original variance was for that business to even go in there. And the idea of expansion of it was never in my wheelhouse, and y'all know I watch these pretty close. So I'm concerned with that right out the gate.
I can actually touch on that. So the semi trucks that are parked in front of both my current property and the neighboring property, those are actually driven by the residents of the townhome community behind both of these properties. I actually fight that battle with them pretty consistently to not have them parked there, for the reasons you stated, but also because it can become an issue in the mornings when we have to pull our pickup trucks and trailers out of the property, but also for deliveries that we receive during business hour. So it was my goal in doing this, should it be approved, and to have driveway cuts, as you mentioned earlier, in the future, similar to the one that I have currently, would be to deter any of that from happening, because they do park there frequently. And
I just remember when we discussed this originally, that we would put a lot of effort into the fence to hide everything because that's what we consider a characteristic district and overlay district. To hide that, and now the idea of expanding it to that whole entire lot next door wasn't in the game plan when we started this, so. I just have some concerns. This is just the first reading, correct? Here,
This is just the public hearing, so the vote will not be until May 12th. So, and I would state that the use is permitted. So originally, when the original business went in, it was permitted by council as a conditional use variance. Since the code has changed, and because the business is already there, like another conditional use variance is not required. So this is simply for that setback from the fence. Had the loan not been structured the way that it was, they wouldn't have needed a variance, but they need a variance for this portion because you've got a side setback requirement that can't be met, obviously, with a property line right there without a variance.
and I know we discussed adding to the overlay district, but nothing to go in the overlay districts that needed the barrier and hiding fences. We discussed that a couple of months ago with another piece of property in the back.
I do, but I see this as a little bit different because they're not asking for a specific use. They're asking for the, just the setback, right there along the property line. So without the fence, without that variance, I mean, they could still, if they chose to, it wouldn't be ideal, but without the variance, they would just do a fence here and then come and do another fence here and then maybe have a gate inside there.
So we have more on the overlay districts.
I'm sorry.
That's all I've got.
anybody else have anything?
So you are a fencing company, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I do understand Manuel's concerns, and I honestly think that it boils down to the amount of hours and drive and just time that this council has put into the way that our city looks. Is there any option other than an 8-foot chain link with barbed wire on the top? Because visually, I don't think that's pleasing. And maybe
Yeah.
that's the issue. And
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely other fence types that we could consider. That was,
would you be willing to consider that? Like, we can't force you to use a different.
Oh, you matching your existing, I'm sorry. You matching your existing fence? Yes, that's what he's matching was already there.
yeah, so, and to expand upon that, are there other fence types that we can consider? Yes, ma'am. The reason that I mentioned we were gonna do the same style fence that we have currently was just for continuity's sake.
And I do understand that, and I also know that this was done prior to this council, like coming on. I don't think I think we would have asked you to use a different material in 2023.
This council,
No, this is done in 2023.
was, I was on zoning and planning.
And then, I just wanted to mention the street parking.
Mhm.
Make sure you keep that in mind with no street parking.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, everything that we own is behind the fence. Always. If it's not, it's an issue. I can assure you of that.
And then hopefully we can help out the 18-wheelers that are parked in the street as well. So,
Yes, sir.
Can you, I mean, there's no on-street parking, correct, Chief? That includes symbols.
I was unaware of the process, to be quite honest with you, or the recourse rather, because if they park in front of my current building, lot 16A, I don't technically own past my property line, so I can't tell them to move,
Right.
other than, seeking the help of law enforcement.
Right.
So,
Can that be reported in the Citizen Central app? Yeah. You
Okay.
can report that when you see it. That actually probably would help bring some visibility.
It's a constant thorn for us, to be honest with you. Yeah, to be blunt about it, they're always there. There's concrete pump trucks, there's all kinds of stuff sitting out there. So it drives us
The
crazy.
people that are Bob telling home that live in an apartment complex.
Yes.
That's our code enforcement officer to keep an eye on that area as well.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comment in favor? Or? We'll close the public hearing on agenda item number 1. Any comments, any additional comments from them? All right, we'll now open the public hearing on agenda item number 2, public hearing on petition filed by Andrew Segro with the First School for a zoning map amendment for a parcel located at 0 Highway 21 to amend the zoning from R2, single family and duplex residential, to L1, limited industrial. The parcel is 7.06 acres and is owned by JPWM Investments LLC. Anyone who wants to speak in favor or opposing to agenda item number 2?
Thank you. My name is Robert McCorkle. I'm here on behalf of First Gulf. Andrew was out of the country today and couldn't make it, so he asked me to come for him. First Gulf's Canadian commercial developer. They got about $5 billion in assets. Y'all are familiar with them by now. We've been here a couple of times. We were here in January, I believe, of this year for the rezoning of the main parcel of this piece of property for the development of a 348,000 square foot warehouse on the site. And we also entered into and negotiated and entered into a development agreement in connection with that development and a couple of other developments that are going on around us. With the construction of our warehouse and the other warehouses that are owned by other entities, there is, as we discussed back in January, an interim entrance that's being built on Highway 21 directly into this property that's going to exist until such time as the ultimate entrance is built through the Savannah Logistics Park. And so the parcel that we're here about today is actually the parcel that the entrance road is going to run through. You actually pan out of that a little bit just so I can show. So the larger tract here on the right is actually where the warehouse is going to sit. And then the road is going to cut through to 21. This rezoning application came about through discussions with staff about the fact, the desire to have the parcel where utilities and the entrance drive and also a stormwater lagoon would be located servicing the warehouse, would also be located on property that has the same zoning as the warehouse. So what this really is a rezoning of this piece of property just for use as a stormwater pond and for an entrance road and for utilities to be run, so that ultimately will serve the warehouse that's already been rezoned. The client intends to submit a site plan as soon as we get through the rezoning. Basically, they're ready to move forward on the project. We received a unanimous recommendation for planning and zoning and certainly support that recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions. I did have this, and I showed this in a picture, but if you want a better maybe a better colored picture of the piece of property we're talking about here. The property in question is the one that's colored pink on this map. We all have a copy there. And the brown side is the existing industrial site. And so you can see there the utilities will be run. The only change from the original site plan, I think, that we showed is we've moved the road a little bit farther away from the church. So there's a better buffer between the road and the church. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all have.
My main concern where the road was going, I know on the south side, you got some wetlands where
Yes, sir.
has some natural buffer and y'all were gonna add to it as much as possible.
Yes, sir. And that's what's been
Within the
done.
management of the drainage pond and the road.
Right, and that's what's been done since when we were here in January. The change that's happened is exactly that. There are wetlands that run down the entire right side of that if you're looking at it, but they did shift the road over. It meets the buffer requirements of the ordinance, and I think they added a little, as much as they could to it.
Because the property south of that is still ground residential. But the Baptist church is there and they'll have services every Sunday and
Sure.
at other times too. Funerals and fellowship hall, get together, things like that. So
There won't be any buildings on this lot. There can't be really. There's no room for them. It's just going to be a driveway and a pond.
I just want to make sure those buffers, whatever is removed and if you can add more to it, it would be greatly appreciated.
We'll be back with site plan and show all of that.
I'm just wanting a refresher because we've got so much happening there now, across the street and down there and apartments down by the railroads. I know there's gonna be a traffic light further down from you. We've got the decelerate lanes, got everything. I'm getting a little bit worried about the masses gathering there.
Sure. A lot of that'll get worked out at the site plan level, but yes, ultimately it's all gonna have to be approved for DCL XL. The ultimate entrance to all these parcels is gonna be through the Savannah Logistics Park. So, and there will be a light there. This is really a temporary entrance, which is gonna allow for the beginning of construction, and then all of the parties are working together to have a common entrance, and then this one will go away.
Okay, so that helps because I thought you were all gonna conglomerate at one red light.
That's what's happening.
Right. Eventually, this would be not mainly for, this roadway would be just for employees to come in mainly.
I think that's right. I think it will be used, but not as the main entrance. So, and I think all of this was contemplated in the development agreement. The only thing that's really changed is when it came down to getting through the site plan, we realized through the discussions with staff that it made more sense for the road and the pond to have the same zoning so that we weren't, using infrastructure across property that wasn't zoned industrial.
Comments? Favorite or? I'll conclude the public hearing on agenda item number 2. Any other comments from? Moving on to agenda item number 3, public hearing on petition filed by Shazad Mahmood with Hemley Horn and Associates requesting a conditional use variance to construct and maintain 150-foot monopole style wireless telecommunication facility located at 434 South Columbia Avenue. The property is owned by Walmart Real Estate Business Trust and is zoned B2 general commercial. Any comments?
Good evening, y'all. I'm Drew Pitts, professional engineer with Kidling Horn on behalf of SBA. Pretty cut and dry, 150-foot monopole inside a 40 by 80 compound. The anchor tenant is AT&T, who, as some of you may know, has FirstNet, which is paired with emergency response, fire, police, et cetera. But I believe that this meets all of the code requirements. No real additional reason to continue speaking on it unless there's questions.
You guys got any questions?
Looking at the plat that we were given in our packet, the location of the pole itself with the tower, which is 100 feet tall, it's approximately 24 feet from the parking lot at Walmart.
Yeah, just go to page 2.
Is that, our requirements to say setbacks from any technically property line is the height of the pole plus 10 feet. So in this case, it'd be 160 feet, but it's on Walmart property. It's still within code by that definition, but I'm afraid, people do park their vehicles there. And so if for some reason it collapsed unexpectedly for whatever reason, natural or engineering, that ATT and the company that built it would be liable for any damage to a vehicle that's parked in that parking area.
That's
It falls, that's to the north. It falls to the northwest. It falls to the north, south, or east. It's probably not a big deal, but that's the only where I see it there on the north side of that picture there is that it's in 24 feet of the parking lot. We had a concern with another cell tower about the structure wind limits due to this being in a hurricane zone. And so any approval, we would need detailed engineering statements stating what the wind levels and how much collapses and things like that.
Absolutely. When the full package, especially for BP, we'll have the full drawings for what it was designed for.
Anybody got anything? No?
It's always me.
Hey, I ain't worried about it. I've got a hotel for the night, so take all the time you need.
This is just a public.
All right, any other comments? I'll close the public hearing on agenda item number 3. Any comments from the council? And that will close the public hearing portion of. I'll turn the meeting back over to Mayor Exley.
Okay. I got a motion on this only, I got a second by Ms. Riley, all in favor, say aye. Motion passes. All right, going to old business, number 1, vote on the first reading of ordinance to annex certain property into the city of Rankin, Georgia pursuant to chapter 36 of title 36 of the official code of Georgia, and to amend the zoning ordinance and official map of the city of Rankin, Georgia, as amended, to rezone a certain property consisting of 4.45 acre property now known as R2820002 and a 67.95 acre property known as parcel R2820001 within the boundaries of the city of Rankin, Georgia, severability, to repeal all ordinances in conflict herewith, to address Scrivener's errors, to provide an effective date and for other purpose. This was tabled on the 4/14/2025 meeting.
Yes, sir. This is property that was already annexed into the city of Rankin in 2022. 2021 and 2022 for these parcels. So this is more cleanup work and drafting an ordinance for this. I ask that you approve this, please.
So we have to have a motion to remove it from the table, right?
Yes.
First. Okay.
Make a motion to remove all.
Second.
I got a motion by Ms. Riley. I got a second by Ms. Underwood. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, now the motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Riley. I got a second by Ms. Underwood. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, new business number 1, first reading on a petition filed by Andrew Segro with First Gulf for a zoning map amendment for a parcel located on Highway 21 to amend the zoning from R2 Single Family and Duplex Residential to L1 Limited Industrial. The parcel is 7.06 acres and is owned by JPWM Investments LLC. The Plan and Zoning Board voted 7-0 at their meeting on April 15, 2025 to recommend the approval of the rezone. Ms. Lewis?
Thank you. So this is the rezoning that you just heard that you just had the public hearing for. We'll have first reading tonight, second reading on May 12th, and we recommend that it be approved.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Motion on order.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second. I got a motion by Ms. Riley. I got a second by Mr. Blackwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We did remove new business number 2. We'll go to new business number 3. Request approval of professional services agreement with Hussey Gay Bell for the wastewater treatment facility upgrade.
Yes, sir. Mr. CJ Chance is here to discuss this. This is an upgrade to the existing plant, not a new construction. The proposed cost of this is $955,000.
Hey, thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is CJ Chance with Hussey Gay Bell. Just to give you a little bit of background, City of Lincoln awarded relief money, a sum of about $15 million to make upgrades and increase the capacity of the Lincoln wastewater treatment plant. Your plant is currently in very good operation. However, it was built many, many years ago and needs a little bit of TLC. At the same time, there are some things that, just to give you just a little bit of background, you're probably aware at this point that Effingham County just recently did their plant. It's a 2 million gallon upgrade, and it was about 46 million. It's the cost of new construction on that. So you're looking at about $23 a gallon. If you go back 5 years ago, that number was roughly $15. Go back 10 years ago, it's probably less than $10, $8 a gallon. So just to give you an idea of how much the price escalation, that really all started in about 2020, which was a year some of us won't forget. That was a COVID year. You may also remember that a while back, the City of Lincoln also solicited services for a design of an upgrade of a 1 MGD plant. So basically that would put a 1 MGD right beside it. The plans came out. That project was bid at approximately $35 million, I believe. So that plant would have been what is called an SBR, sequencing batch reactor plant, which is not the same as what your plant currently operates as. Your plant currently operates as a tried and true carousel ditch plant. Uses conventional methods of treating your wastewater. You have 2 means of discharging your wastewater. One is by an outfall. The second is by the golf course that you guys own. So we met with Mr. Key on site. We also took Mr. Key on a couple of site visits to other treatment plants, and basically said, if you had basically a chest of money, what would you do? And we'll take those ideas and we'll see how we can take those ideas, mix them with what you already have, and increase your capacity by about 50%, 30 to 50%. We think we can get 50% by what you already have with the $15 million, plus be able to add on some structural repairs, some new pumps, a new SCADA system. So this proposal would be this is just a few of the items, but it would be to upgrade and replace the UV system. So you saw that in action at one location. It is for lack of better terms, a much more efficient. So it would also cut down on your power bills monthly. That is one of your big power drivers at the plant is the UV system. So By replacing that, not only, you are spending money, but you're also saving money long term. So you're spending grant money to save money on operational costs. Replacement of the dewatering components, which is basically a belt press that takes the solids and all the waste that's left before you ship it off, it can consolidate that. Changes and expansion to the SCADA system, basically would be a revamping of the current SCADA system. SCADA is the communication arm of the treatment plant. Replace return activated sludge pumps. That's what keeps the good biology going in the plant. Update and increase, and this is a potential, update and increase the permit discharge amount. The reason we want to do that is to go ahead and set Rankin up for the future so that when you do go and have to actually expand the plant, not just for this, but you already have the discharge capabilities to do that. New and expanded chemical feed system. So as we got more water, as we're processing more water, we need to expand the chemical feed systems, filter additions, and investigation of potential additional irrigation on city-owned properties, which is the golf course essentially. The reason that there is an operator in the room and he knows that we kind of dance around this a little bit, we will use it as an irrigation system. It will not be a spray field. The city will actually be a customer, which you currently are, to itself. That way that helps us on permitting with EPD. I would say that time is critical right now. The money has to be spent, but by everything that we're hearing so far in other municipalities in the state of Georgia, even in skip grants in South Carolina, is a hard December of 2026. I think everybody in the real world recognizes that every project's not going to be done by December 2026, but we need to do everything possible that we can to spend that money that's allocated for it by December 2026. So if you back up from there, I would kind of anticipate that we would want to be substantially complete by October of 2026. So when you do that and you have lead times of roughly 50 weeks on some of the electrical equipment, time is tight. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Again, the end goal is to take the money that you were given as relief grant money and use that money wisely to extend the life of your plant, but also to increase the capacity by 30 to 50% at the same time.
And you're thinking closer to 50?
I think so. We've run the numbers. We've also talked with the vendors who actually have the equipment in your plant. We've run numbers with them. We feel that we can get very close to 50%, which actually buys you guys a good bit of time.
Yeah, because all we were looking at was $1 million to begin with, right?
Correct. So we'll get halfway there with free money.
That's right.
And how much time we got 50% increase?
It depends on how fast you grow, how many permits you go issue. Well, I can tell you. I'll use one example. Let's take Richmond Hill, which we built 6 years ago. It's four MGD, and right now we're operating at 3. We got it outfitted. Right now, with the commitments that are out there, Richmond Hill needs to be looking at an upgrade as soon as some of these big commitments that they have are put into place. How long were that plan in there? 6 years? 8 years? Okay, so honestly, when that was built, thought nobody had to worry about it again. But I mean, you see what's happened on I-95 South. So it's really hard to speculate. What I can tell you, if you will give me just a second to do some calculations, and it won't take long, but.
While you're doing that, I want to, Robbie, I want you to kind of speak on also, this would give us time to start collecting on this.
Yes,
That's
we
huge.
tabled one item tonight to put it in ordinance form, but what this city doesn't have, and in my opinion, should have had for the last 15 or 20 years, is a wastewater treatment plant fee for all new development coming into the city. It's a one-time fee that if you're building a house, they pay for a house. If you're building an apartment complex, it pays. That money goes into a reserve full wastewater treatment plant upgrades. So we're going to start that project at the next council meeting. That'll be on the agenda, and we'll start doing that. But by doing that, getting our audits up to date, getting our finances right, then we qualify for low interest DEFA loans through the state, which is hard for us to do right now because we're missing out on audits. But with the wastewater treatment plant fee being utilized and able to get GFA loans from the state at a lower interest, that's benefit.
So in terms of how long would that last us, and I'm not saying you're gonna get 1,700 new homes, but that's what it covers. So back to Mr. Bird's comment about collecting it on apartments or houses or anything, it's also commercial, industrial. Anybody that uses it, there's a formula, you can convert that into, a commercial, a restaurant, a nail salon, a retail store, a industrial warehouse. You can convert those into what we call equivalent residential units. That's the benefit you're getting, is another 1,700 homes. So 1,700 times about 3.5, that's the population growth that this increase will cover. Whatever form that comes in business or.
The rough answer is 3 to 5, based off. How many? That's what my question.
What I looked at it recently, I mean,
I know at the height in another city, at the height of the building, we were doing between 300 and 500. So we're looking at roughly. It'll last us 3 to 5 years.
It buys us time.
Yeah, it does.
And once you get done with this, you'll be, what do we do next? I mean, that's where we are. And I mean, because you don't have the money to do it all at one time. So you get done with this and then you're like, so now you're collecting money and then you're moving to the next step.
Well, and I think we, there was others that requested this money, didn't pay anything for their, treatment plant. So we had the opportunity to start doing that as well. And, I'm going to say this, and even if somebody's got to speak, that's fine, but I just want to tell you, Mr. Chance, I appreciate you for coming in with Plan B and working as hard as you did to get that for us, because we were told no, there was no such thing as Plan B.
Yeah.
But you and Robbie continued with Plan B, and now here we are. So now we're making smart moves.
I would also like to commend Mr. Key. You kind of got a jewel with him.
Yes.
He knows that plant forwards and backwards. When we took him on trips, he knew what he wanted to see. He knew what questions he wanted to ask.
Don't take any.
I'm not, I don't, he's been a pleasure to work with, and he knows what he.
But walking in and seeing that and saying, why mess up something that's working perfectly fine?
Yeah.
And that was kind of how Robbie explained it to me, because he's went down the road before, and this plan will continue to work. No matter what goes out, it just continues to work, and what we were looking at was not going to be the case.
I can tell you it's the only treatment plant we've looked at in decades that has no pumping mechanisms. That usually you have to have pumps to push the water through the plant.
Could you speak to, I mean, that property, we're pretty set for a while for expansion, for water treatment, correct?
Yeah, property wise, is that what you mean? Yeah, I don't think you'll need any more. I think you've got more than enough room to basically take the plants you have, use some of the admin, front office stuff, and then just kind of take that plant and mirror it over. And then there's still some integration that you have to do between the two sides. You've got plenty of room for Rinkin to grow as far as land goes. Never lose sight of collecting money. I'll tell you another thing that municipalities fall into a trap of is never increasing the fees, because it is hard. You face backlash, but then it's a lot easier to face backlash from a 10-cent increase than it is from a $10 increase. And that's what happens to a lot of people, is they wait, and then they hit with a 15% increase on the water bill, and it hurts.
On the permit, what are you gonna request? You're saying you might be able to get a 50% increase.
Yes,
Which would be 1.5 million gallons per day. Is that what the permit's gonna ask for? Or going for the 2 million, which we originally had.
Well, there's a couple of steps you have to go through. You have to get what's called wastewater allocation and anti-degradation. So we do them, but we've got somebody else that's much more efficient, and that's all she does. So we'll run the models, see what they come back as, see what a good ask is, without us having to increase our treatment. So anytime you ask for an increase in discharge, the state shouldn't just say, okay, I'll give you more if you do this, but they try to. So the more we can avoid that and keep politics out of it, the better. So say we run our reports and they say that we can get 1.5. Well, we know that buys us 3 to 5 years, right? So why push the envelope on spending any more money than you have to for better treatment today? Instead of going straight to 2 million or 2.5 million, whatever it may be.
And these upgrades would be, we would do the same similar style plan.
But,
We-
well,
we
these
expand it,
upgrades
right?
that we're doing right now,
Yeah.
honestly, when you go out to the treatment plant, you're gonna see new parts and pieces. You're gonna get a new grill guard on your truck or new wheels or something like that. The plant's gonna stay the same. We're taking the way that it runs through the system and we're increasing the flow. Then we're adding new filters and we're adding new pumps. And we're doing all those things to increase what we can push through the existing system.
Things that we were probably gonna end up having.
You would have had to do it anyway. So why not take,
to.
let's say, free money and use it to do it today?
We increase you, the more trees, what do we get rid of?
I mean, if we can, that's another part of this, is we're gonna look and see how much more water we can send to the golf course. Because every gallon we send to the golf course is another gallon we don't have to send to the discharge. So that's another gallon we don't have to ask for. The only catch there is I gotta count on it 365 days a year. That's the hard part.
Yeah, they don't use that much during the winter months.
Mhm.
Summer, they probably use, it evens out, you know, if they get a big gallon a month, you know.
Anybody else have anything?
I'll second.
Got a motion by Ms. Riley, I got a second by Mr. Blackwell. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
New business number 4, request approval to pay Lane Christensen Company for inspection of well number 4.
Yes, sir. This is, Charlie, you can talk on this? You can talk. It's Charlie with EOM. This price is $33,100 and it's for well 4.
Steve, Mayor Council, good to see everybody. So the way this came about, it actually was from a corrective work order we generated from a leaking packing line at the well. When we went to actually go make that repair, industrial team noticed under the shaft and some other issues. So we wanted to get out in front of it. You know, we were preventative predictive maintenance. So we're not waiting for stuff to break down. So we want to make sure that that well's running to support our growth here in Rankin for the next year. So doing these types of inspections in depth to make sure that the well shaft and all the mechanical wet end components are still functioning properly is very important. So that's why we brought it to this attention now.
Anybody have any questions? Comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Riley, I got a second by Ms. Underwood. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Robert, did you want me to talk about?
Yeah, again, I'll call you back. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 5A. Motion to approve and authorize execution of the easement agreement between J&W Land Holding LLC and the city of Rankin by the mayor, subject to the city attorney's review and approval.
Yes, sir. Brett Bennett's here to discuss this. Well, I hate to add stuff to the agenda after the fact, but this is for a 45-foot easement for the city to access their well, and the property is selling, so the easement has to be recorded. Brett's here to answer any questions y'all have about it.
Yes. Good evening, Brett Bennett, Greenland Developer. I think it might be best if I have that exhibit B, maybe if you can pop it up there. So see that exhibit B to that agreement. I'll just walk through kind of what happened here, just so everybody really understands what's going on. Probably be the easiest place to start.
Go ahead and start.
So initially, y'all would probably remember as you go north on 21, as soon as you cross the tracks, you used to have a little two-rut road that went down to that well site. You probably noticed the front court of the building is now built across that easement. The city gave up that easement in turn for one we're going to relocate to within the park. That's what I want to show you. You're already using that easement today. The easement is already recorded on the plat. But because there's a pending sale, this agreement now says what the obligations of each other are, which in essence is largely between the two property owners, us and the building, the buyer of the building. But because the city has access easement through it, you're a party to the agreement. Although there's really not much obligation other than some requirements of insurance. And those are the things that we're still working through with the attorney. But if you look right here, you used to have an easement that ran from 21 here to this well site. Y'all familiar? Yes.
Yep.
So now this easement exists on the plat today.
Gone.
This exists on the plat today. This is how you're accessing the well site today. And this agreement is just saying between these parties, we're also using this road just like you're using it. And it spells out the obligations between the two parties. But again, the city isn't the beneficiary of the easements, you're a party to that. And the only language I think was matching up with some of your liability insurance, if you make it matches your insurance, and that kind of stuff. And I'll answer any questions. The idea is to approve the easement agreement subject to city attorney approval, which is just cleaning up some of the legal language. This is easy to go.
And somebody, gotta get to it.
You're already using it like this, it's just an agreement to formalize it and clean it up.
Motion's in order, guys, if y'all.
Make a motion to approve this easement agreement upon the lawyer's review.
Second.
I got a motion by Mr. Blackwell, I got a second by Ms. Underwood, all in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. There's a need for executive session, really quick. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on a minute. Charlie, let's, why don't you go ahead and come up first before we do mayor and council? I always get mixed up because it's mayor and council. It says, it's over here on the front. And we need to make sure we put it just before executive session.
Sure. I just want to talk a little bit about the water system, some changes that may have happened, things you may have heard about. I just want to address to make sure everybody's on the same page. So when we got here, we made some operational changes at first. Boarding was a little bit on the high side. So we actually lowered that, and there was, I guess, some concern that we may have lowered the boarding. Boring's an interesting thing. It's an oxidizer, and it kills pathogens and bacteria. Once you've done the job of killing the bacteria and pathogen, what you have left is a residual. So the fact that we have a residual, we've gone through a break point of treatment on the water. So by adding more chlorine, you're just increasing the residual, but we've already gotten the disinfection that we're looking for. So what we have to do as operators at this point is to manage how much chemical we put in the water. Too much chlorine can give it a very chemical taste, a pool type taste, and people will complain. So we want to look at it from an aesthetic standpoint, but it's also cost savings. We're being stewards of the things that we purchase with the city's money, and feeding needless chlorine it's wasteful. So that's why we made that adjustment. It was pretty high. So it wasn't unsafe, but we just didn't need to feed that much.
Okay.
Some of the other things that we're doing in the water system to support growth that I know is going to be happening, we are actively looking at fixing the booster station to support that growth. You have 2 groundwater use permits right now. One is close to its limit. The other one has probably 80% of its limit. So we're looking at valving scenarios to see how we can maximize both of our groundwater use permits to make sure we have plenty of capacity for growth. We've got the water there. We just have to make sure that we're using it as efficiently as possible. I think those were just the couple items I wanted to touch on when it came to that, and answer any questions you may have.
So just to clarify, I know originally that all of our backup systems, the batteries were dead, and a lot of problems. It's all had repaired.
For the booster pump, not yet. It's going to be extensive repairs. It hasn't ran in.
She's also talking about probably lift station.
Lift stations, yeah.
Yes, so that there was an issue with bypass pumps that we've discovered. We are actively fixing them. I believe we've fixed 2 of them so far, but we will need to fix all of them.
So we had no bypass.
That's
Working.
So the reason they weren't working is there's a certain type of coolant that has to go into aluminum line radiators, and the wrong coolant was put in. It completely corroded the radiators. So our industrial team's actually rebuilding each of those. So we're self-performing those repairs to save money.
And then one last thing, and Robbie might want to speak to this, because I've slept since the last meeting, Robbie, I apologize. We discussed this, though, we asked about a year ago for an inventory of all of our roads, which was done, but they weren't prioritized as what roads need to be done. And y'all were looking at that, Big Robbie, to work out that list. They get close to that?
Yes, Kristen sent an email today on that. They got the list from EMC. The list is they're looking at the roads, which ones need paving based off T-Splosh. We still can't do the LMIG through the state yet because our audits aren't done. So as soon as our audits get done, we can utilize the LMIG money also, which is matching money. But she's on top of it. She sent an email today about that. So they're going ahead and starting to prioritize roads that need paving with the T-Splosh money. He's getting with the DASA to know how much T-Splosh money we actually have to utilize for road paving. So that's in work.
And as quick as you get that, just let us know, and I'd like to get that information out to everyone.
We'll get a list of roads which we will utilize. And then once we're able to utilize the LMIG money, we'll have a list of roads on there.
Then we'll have them.
Yeah, because I think if we could actually get a list out of projected list, because we need to use that term.
But let's wait till we get the LMIG,
Right.
we'll utilize that also.
And if that can be a goal yearly, that we'll just have that list, that our community will know what some.
And that's how that's how the LMIG money works. You actually present to them beforehand the roads you want to get paved in the city. So you have that money and you also have T-Splosh.
But the LMIG is 50%.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you have anything? Everybody have anything else, Charlie? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll start with Tim.
First, I want to say thank you for the monthly reports. These are things that gives us a lot of good information. Question I have for Chief. Would you say that our incident rate, traffic wrecks in the city are roughly up versus a year, 2 years ago? You think we're about the same? Okay, good. That's what I need to know. The second thing is we talked about tractor trailers in the city. Windsong is starting to hibernate 2 or 3 tractor trailers full time in that area.
I know quite well.
Okay, I was pulling out there today and another one was pulling in and they're staying there for,
All night.
yeah.
Is that Windsong too?
No, that's the original. Well, I don't know if there's 2 parts of the original, but
There's,
it's the older parts, not the new part.
That's all.
I have my neighbor and he's quit, my one neighbor, he's quit bringing his bobtail home. Parts of that is uncle's house, and he has 17 acres in the North City tract, so he's quit that. But there are 3 more that have moved in and they're bringing their truck home.
And Terry will speak on this also.
Sure. So as part of the UDO, we adopted some regulations about tractor trailer parking in residential areas. And so one of the fees that we're bringing forward, that we're bringing forward at the next meeting, is a fee for that parking permit is what we landed on as part of that. And so once we have that in place, then we're going to go out to us in conjunction with our code enforcement officer. We'll go out throughout the city, wherever we've identified that tractor trailers are parking. If they meet the requirements, then we'll give them the permit application to apply for one. If they don't, because remember there were requirements, I don't know them all off the top of my head, but there's an acreage requirement. There's a proximity to wetlands, water bodies requirements. So, and then there's a limit of 2 per property, no matter what. But if they don't meet those, then we'll go ahead and have that conversation and let them know that they can no longer be parked in those residential areas. That's correct.
I'm all for cars making a living. And going through planning and zoning before, they don't really have many places to park that don't have to take out a loan. So I hope that maybe something can be looked at that down the road. The second thing is Patriot Park sign is up. Thank you. You can now tell that we have a park back there. That's phenomenal.
I got a picture with a level.
From
So you pick.
What's going around the road doing like this? No, I actually had the same concern. It looked like it was this way, but it's sort of like it was the contract. Maybe that's it. And one thing I wanted to ask about there earlier, I don't know if I could ask about the wastewater treatment fees, the future fees. Mr. Robbie, Mr. Burke, did you say that that was for future
That's,
growth?
that's a one-time fee. If you come, so it won't affect the.
Will affect any?
But if a developer comes in and says, I want to build a house, he's got to pay that fee. It's a new construction, one-time fee.
Good.
It's based off residential.
Yeah, it's based off an ERU, so however many ERUs would run, a business will utilize, they have to pay that. But it doesn't cost the citizens anything, it's the developer or the first time.
I just wanted to make sure I'm correct. The last thing, and I'll be quick, is I came into City Hall Friday, and this has been a sore topic for me, the traffic in the community. I'm pleading with the citizens, please, do the speed limits. We have people, and if we could find out, I'll even find out, there's a gentleman that rides a wheelchair that crosses Fort Howard right there at Willowpeg Way. If we can come up with some solution, Ms. Brandy and I have had a discussion about this offline, and, you know, we have crosswalks at 21, we have them down at the school at the other end, but in between. And then, like she made a comment that that's really gonna slow traffic down. I'm not saying we need sidewalks on the other side of the road, but if we can somehow come up with something to get people from one side of Fort Howard to the other safely.
Well, I know you had talked to Jody.
Miss Jody.
About different locations, so I'll talk to Josh at the EOM tomorrow, see if it's more feasible for them to do it or for us to contract it out and get it done. But it will be it'll be signed pedestrian.
I wanna make sure that everybody's.
Putting a pedestrian crosswalk in a 45-mile-an-hour zone with no signal. I feel that's more dangerous than forcing them to go down to.
That's why we were looking at speed limit over to 30. Because there is too much.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, you're gonna lower it to what, 35? They're gonna do 45 anyway.
Now they're doing 50.
Sorry, they're gonna do 44.
You're right. Yeah.
44.
Well, they're doing 50.
What I'm gonna do. 44 is what I'm gonna do.
Marketing agreement with Kenley Horn and, MPO meeting, I had to go to Savannah night and discuss the speed limits with him. He said he'd be glad to come look at them, evaluate those roads, and they could handle dealing with the state on 21, they can handle all that, but.
Yeah,
That's what we need.
And I know Ms. Terry said that, I think EOM or not EOM, EMC 2 years ago, but our traffic patterns have changed.
Oh, yes.
And, Martha, that's all they do. They're just traffic engineers. That's all he focuses on.
I just want to come up with some solution.
My biggest concern is not having a solution for some type of warning signal to the drivers that there is a pedestrian in this crosswalk right now.
If I don't have it by the next meeting, I'll have you talking about the following meeting. From Kenley Horn, we'll do that. I'm looking at that, I'm evaluating it.
Chief, your thoughts? I agree. If we're going to do a call, probably should have some time. The issue of drivers. It's like you have to be.
Yeah, at night, a tragedy is what's gonna happen.
If you put the crosswalk signal in, you do like they do down on West Bay Street, you have those high intensity lights where people have to physically stop. Because there's somebody in the crosswalk.
And I know that creates a mess.
I don't even think the traffic is as much of an issue for me. It's, if you're gonna change the speed limit to 35, that's not as much of an issue in that area as the safety is. The safety is the bigger issue, in my opinion.
Okay, I've already got to advance on some of this, but, I asked Terry if she could address a little bit about, the plan of action for the master plan and what that'll look like going forward. Should be report, anticipation of a plan of action, so forth.
Sure, and so what Robbie and I talked about doing was putting together an RFP. I've got one started, a request for proposals to get a consultant to assist us with the master planning process. We don't want to turn it all over, but there are certainly things that others are experts in that we are not. So I think doing that would be a good first step. So we would put that out, much like we did with the UDO, and request proposals with very specific guidelines, deadlines for questions to be asked, and then deadlines for that to be submitted back to us. From there, we would, hopefully we would get a bunch, we would review them and then make a recommendation to council on which consultant firm to go with. And then from there, come up with a timeline, and then definitely do, whether it's monthly reports to council, whether we would include it in our typical monthly department report, or give a separate report on where that's going. But I would expect there too to be a lot of involvement, not just from the community and stakeholders. I likely would see that we would appoint a stakeholder committee that would have 1 to 2 council members, 1 to 2 board members, as well as members of the public. But I just think that there would be a lot of involvement from council also in providing that input.
I know I've talked to you interested about some kind of code around burning. And I know that's just gonna be a mess, but it's gotten where it's intolerable to be in your yards or do anything anymore without it being at the ballparks at 9 in the afternoon, Saturdays. It's horrendous. When we were a community of 3,000, it wasn't so bad, but with grocers. So,
And Chief Reed and I can get together on that. We have started to look into that and doing some research on what other communities in Georgia does. It used to be that it was handled by the Georgia Forestry, but they no longer do that.
I think we often discuss people at certain times, but if you're looking at weekends, that's when they have tournaments.
Can I say something? I've been down this road before. The problem you get is the enforcement portion of it. It's hard to enforce. And you're more rural, so people are gonna go in their backyards and burn. It's gonna be hard to enforce, and when you do enforce it, you're looking at, who are you looking at? Your fire department, who's waiting on a call for a car wreck, your police department that's supposed to be doing public safety. So it's a difficult, slippery slope, but I know we can do the construction, and we have discussed that. We've done the construction where you have to have a pit and a blower. That's a clean burn.
Robbie, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
What if we would take addresses, and then have code enforcement reach out to those people, the following Monday or whatever, that next week, go to their house and say, hey, we're aware that you were burning over the weekend, blah, blah, blah. At least having a conversation with them.
You mean based off of just a burn or an ordinance?
Based off of just, if someone burned, someone was doing burning in their yard, and that, it got called in, whether it got called into either one of these guys.
But what I'm saying, though, you're talking about after an ordinance is in place?
After it's in place, yeah.
That's how you have to handle it.
That's right. And then you just have code enforcement go out. To me, it seems like that would help.
We're gonna do it off of a complaint basis.
Off of complaint.
But, first thing they're gonna say, Terry's burning at her house, nobody complained on her.
Well, we'll get Terry.
It's.
Eventually, we don't catch Terry, but right now we see in Jody.
Yeah.
But the other thing is too, there are communities that do complete burn bans, it just stops it. I mean, I've got a pecan tree, oak trees, pine trees, I never burn. You don't have to burn.
I don't either. I second what you're saying, because we have 2 or 3 neighbors. I can name 3 addresses that burn all the time. And I have more debris from trees and grass cuttings and trimmings. I take mine to Debenham waste place over there on
It's
Courthouse Road.
It's effective. It's effective.
It's a health issue.
So just, is in your court, Ms. Terry, thank you. And then I talked to Michelle earlier today, any other some stuff?
I'm gonna interrupt you, but I would like to hear what fire chief, what's his stance on it, cause Lou, I mean, because you understand everything, because I've got a neighbor that burns on Sundays and it drives my wife crazy.
We have some cities that you cannot burn from April to September in the city. From April to September, you can't burn. That way, that's when everything burn. That way, that's when everybody's outside, that's what everybody's doing. So most of the time, your stuff is falling in the winter. Why are you waiting till April, May, and June to burn it? You know what I mean? From our standpoint, we have to go put it out. And when we go put it out, we've got to have an ordinance to follow on. And it's going to take 6 to 8 months to get that ordinance. So if we want to start working on it now, it's just going to increase our call volume. But it will stop the effectiveness. We don't want to get into burn permits because then everybody is going to want to burn then. Whereas if you just have a blanket, we go put it out, nothing is said, and we have an ordinance to stand by. So, right now, everybody burns. Unfortunately, the 800-acre helicopter burn this weekend from Fort Stewart
It wasn't us.
right through the city of Rankin.
So I would like to speak on this. So I don't agree that we should totally ban it. I understand that it gets brought up every time something happens over the weekend. We end up talking about it in here, but that had nothing to do with a resident in Effingham County. I'm not opposed to the time period ban. Did anybody here go to bonfires when you were growing up, stand in your backyard, have visitation with your friends, not get in any trouble?
I still.
I feel like you're taking that away. I do too. I do too. And I feel like you're taking that away from people who moved to Effingham County so that they can do things like that.
Well, but
We are not Savannah.
But you're taking my right to go in my yard away. So we've got to look at both sides.
So you have the right
Let's
to,
tell you,
I just disagree with you.
let's say something. My grandson at daycare at First Baptist had to stay in from play all the time with his asthma because the people across the street. I mean, this affects all his life.
There's a difference when you have a burn pit in your backyard, you wood.
Mhm.
You know, you
You
burn.
have a day
But if
bonfire.
you, but if you ban it, you're banning that too. And you need to understand that's what the ban.
It's hard, that's a hard subject.
It's hard to ban it when it's in state code that you can have a warming or a cooking fire in your backyard.
That's it.
That's,
So let us dig into it. We'll
Yeah.
dig into the ordinance and how it works. I just wanted, there's two sides to it and it's a hard order.
It is, but it is got where I cannot ever go out in my yard. I can't sit on the porch. Ben and Kira were telling me they've got the same problem. Had a lady down the street have like 20 or 30 trees drop and not one limb was removed by that company. And she has 4 burn piles and every day she's burning, day after day after day after day, and I'm done with it. And half the Rankin is, we're not country anymore, we're urban. We've got 12,000 people, it's gonna continue growing. So you can have a bonfire on Saturday morning. We gotta figure it out. So anyway, I talked to Robbie today about truck signs on 9th Street. He's already got those ordered, I think. You're quick, Robbie.
That's the first I'd heard. Now, I'd heard about the truck
Off and
parking.
on.
I heard about the truck parking like Tim brought up earlier, but that's the first I'd heard about because I see trucks on 9th Street when I come that way. I quit coming that way because they're doing all the paving work.
And then Georgia Power at the ballpark.
And the signs will be no trucks over 2 axles. So that's what the signs will say. And which is a semi. Georgia Power's having an on-site meeting. They're gonna meet at Parker's Thursday morning. They're gonna look at 9th Street. They're gonna get a game plan. He said within 2 weeks, they'll be changing the lights out.
Good.
But I spoke to him today, Keith Rhodes. He's over lighting.
And then the ballpark parking lot.
That's on the list, Georgia Power.
Okay, and then I talked to Robbie also today about getting added to the list sidewalks on Lexington Avenue to 9th Street, 9th Street to 21. There's a lot of people that are walking Lexington Avenue from the ballpark, well, past the ballpark. Probably down there as Warrington area. And then also now that the park's been redone, there's a lot of kids crossing, coming down Kessler from over that way and crossing Lexington, which is a busy street. So again, maybe looking at crosswalks there and some children playing signs or look out for children. Because you're coming around that curve from Governor's Ridge, you're coming up that hill and coming around that curve and cars are flying pretty quick, with kids crossing.
Can I add to that? What I meant earlier about the crosswalks, I guess I should expand that to be any high walking area that has to cross the road, 9th Street, right there at 4th Street, not just 4th Hour. I don't know what you think I'm just targeting,
So
just 4th Hour.
Your crosswalks have to be done. So if you don't have sidewalks, then you gotta end up with sidewalks. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You got, it's gotta be some.
probably at the Cumber area where the kids are, you just have to put children playing or something, signs.
Always rolled up on that hill coming up, but that would probably be a really good place to put those signs further back before you get to Governor's Ridge. You know, even maybe a blinking sign there that lets people know that, because during those tournaments, I mean, there's kids getting in the cars on the road right now. Because the parking lot completely fills up.
There's just a lot of people walking with kids to the playground now. I mean, there are people walking this way. That's all I got.
Okay. Well, I just want to talk about the project task list and just kind of go through a couple things on it. But one thing I want to add is I appreciate the conversation. You know, there for a long time, there wasn't a lot of this conversation, but this back and forth is really good for our city, that we don't always agree on everything. And I mean, that's great. And we can walk out of here and talk to each other and have dinner afterward. That's what I think is neat about this council. Right. So our Willowpeg sidewalks, I just want to get a quick update. I think they're about to get started in there. Yep. He told me, I thought he said Tuesday of this week they were starting, so they may be out there. I think that's what Doug was telling me. Picket fences, Bobo told me final signature. And that, the only reason why we're waiting on that signature is because of the court process. Do you have anything on
I
that?
do not. I got the bill from the Georgia Alabama Land Trust today for the wetlands.
Yeah, so the wetlands piece is done.
So that's done. We had
The one signature was just based off of the executor of it. Yeah, that was all that was. And they said they were gonna sign it immediately that day. 7th Street, project, we had agreed to clean the, ditches and things over on 7th Street. And I know that those, were shot. And I think that those guys are starting correct.
He said that he wants his crew to do it.
Okay.
And, cause I gave me choice. I said, is this something y'all can do? Or we can contract it out. He said, I want to let my guys do it. I think they need to realize that they could do one project and still develop it. He's got them over there doing that, so we'll monitor that.
And the last thing, it looks like everything that we talked about on that project list right there is just about started, to move.
Station, I think Terry got with Bobo.
Right, we're down to just two signatures. I've got the letters prepared and he is working to get in touch with those,
It's two people,
those two.
because those were out of town.
Yeah.
Vacant.
That might come to a condemnation.
That's right, and then just move that one. Okay. And then, community engagement, I think that's Thursday, correct? If I'm not mistaken, I think
You tell me.
our first one's Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, and we want to, Dulcia, we want to try to move that to 4:30. The one thing that I will say about community engagement is it is not a town hall.
Can't have a quorum.
Can't have a quorum. So, you know, the areas that you guys are leaning on, that's where you need to be. You know, if you've got things that you're working on in those areas, obviously, anytime that we do something that surrounds picket fences in that area, I know we're all at large, but it needs to be, you know, I know Brandy, gets a lot of stuff from picket fences. You know, I get a lot of stuff from, Lost Plantation. So there's areas where we get a lot of things, Tim. And we need to be in those meetings, in those areas, and then have somebody outside of that area be there as well. But these engagements are more a directive of council and mayor to the staff. So it's more staff engagement. And I think Terry, really got a grip on that the last time that we did it at, when we did our one over at Picket Fences, she took a lot of notes. She rode around, we pointed out a lot of problems in there, and we still need to get back to Picket Fences and probably do a 30, 60, 90, because,
The process works.
yes,
So doing that in picket fences and then seeing the movement after that
correct.
was the neighborhood itself. Multiple people have come and talked to me about the things that have happened out there and how much they appreciate that.
Yeah, and if we, and you know, the one thing that keeps tapping me on the shoulder with picket fences is the stop signs coming down the main road. We were gonna go to those three-way stops because the cars were going so fast in front of the little book nook that they have right there. Nobody slows down, so it's wide open to the railroad tracks. So what we would do is slow people down at that three-way stop so that you can't get a running start out of picket fences or into picket fences.
Are you looking?
Because you might be getting them to start. But anyway, that's all I want to talk about is that project list, because I think it's important for transparency. We talked about it, and we're just going to keep moving forward. And I think that is posted online and updated like it should be. And then future projects will come into play as we remove these items.
Yeah, pretty much hit on everything I thought about, but just still a reminder, we got 2027 coming up and 100-year anniversary as a city is coming due, so we got to start thinking about that. And along that, also Memorial Day is on May the 28th, I think, or somewhere about there. And that's also a council meeting, so we got to look at what's the 26th. Either have that or postpone it or cancel it altogether.
Ms. Ron,
Okay.
you good? Okay. All right. Anybody have anything for us? If not, motion in order to move to executive session.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Blackwell. I got a second by Ms. Lally. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank y'all.
I'm kidding. Thank you for coming. You're long.
Wow. I've been on the stop sign.